Hey guys, welcome to another interesting tutorials. My name is Monique. Thanks to all my subscribers. I really do appreciate. If this is your first time here, kindly click on the red button below to subscribe. Today I'll be showing you how I made this easy Bubu Kaftan dress with keyhole. So let's get started. I'll be using this chiffon fabric for these tutorials. I have about 3.5 yards and it's by 60. So I'll explain it briefly on this pattern paper before drafting it on the fabric. Let's assume this is our 3.5 yards of fabric. I'm going to fold it into 2 equal half like so. After doing that, then I'll refold it again into 2 because I'm drafting the front and the back together. So after folding it like this, we'll now have the front and the back. So let's go back to the main fabric. So I'm going to fold it. Remember I told you it's a 3.5 yards. So I removed about 1/4 inch from it. So I'm left with 3 1/4 yards. I'm going to use that for the collar and for the belt. So after folding it into 2 equal half, I'm going to fold it again like this. I'll turn it over. So I'm cutting the front and the back together. So I'm trying to arrange it properly. Because it's a soft fabric, I'll need to be very careful. So the full length I have about 59 inches. The first measurement I'll be taking is the neck width, and I'm using 3 inches for the neck width. So after taking the 3 inches, I'll take 2 inches for the back depth. Then for the front depth, I'll take 3 inches. Remember, we're cutting the front and the back together. Now the next measurement I'll be taking is the shoulder width, and for this the shoulder is 15, but I'm adding extra 1 inch. That will be 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 will give us 8 inches. I'm adding half an inch for seam allowance. From this shoulder width, I'm going to take the sleeve measurement. I'm using 16 inches for the sleeve. I'm adding extra 1 inch for seam allowance. That will be 17 inches for the sleeve. Then from this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. So I'll connect it straight to meet the neck width. So after getting this, I'll just use my armhole cuff to connect the back neckline and the front neckline. Now I'll take the chest line from this shoulder slope. The chest line is 8 inches. The chest line is where we'll be imputing our armhole. So I'll just go ahead and connect it this way. Now the next measurement I'll take, every other measurement will start from this point. Now I'll take the waist measurement, that's the shoulder to waist. I'm using 17 inches for this measurement. Now I'll take the shoulder to hip. The shoulder to hip is 26 inches. So I'm going to place it here. I'll go ahead and connect it. So now that we've done that, the next thing I'll take is the bust circumference, and for this the bust circumference is 38. 38 divided by 4 will give us 9.5. I'm adding 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. Now on the waist is 31. 31 divided by 4 will give us 7.5. I'm going to add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. Then I'll do the same for the hips. The hips is 41. 41 divided by 4 will give us 10.25. I'm going to add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. So that's where our measurement will stop. We are not taking any measurement on the full length. So I'll just go ahead and connect all the lines like this. So after doing this, the next thing I'll do, from the waistline here, I'm going to take 2 or 3 inches out. So I'll be using 3 inches. You can use 2 inches. It depends on how wide you want the keyhole to be. So from the chest line, I'll just connect it to meet the 3 inches I took here. Then I'll connect it to meet the hip line here like this. It's going to be like an oval shape. So if you don't want the keyhole to be deep, you can just come down by 2 inches from the waistline and connect it. So now I'll just go ahead and cut out the back neckline. Then I'll also cut out the shoulder slope. Remember, the shoulder and the sleeve are together. So now I'm going to cut this out. Before that, I'm going to create a little hole here so that I'll be able to cut out this line properly. So I'm trying to trace it out properly. So this is the keyhole. Now I'll notch the waistline here and also on this point. The reason why I'm doing this is when I separate the front and the back, I'll know where the waistline is when I'm joining it. So I'm separating the front from the back so that I'll be able to cut out the neckline. So on the center front, I'm going to come down by 1 inch here to the full length. Then from the neck width, I'm going to connect it. I'll make like a V shape to meet this 1 inch. So I'll connect it to the full length like this. So I'm going to cut it out from this point, that's from the neck width, to make like a V shape. Remember I told you I removed about 1/4 yards from the 3.5 yards I'm using for this dress. So that is what I used to cut out the collar. So I have, for the width, I have about 5 inches for the width. On a fold, I'll be left with 2.5 inches. So I'll be using 1/2 inch for joining. So I'll explain that later. So on the shoulder, I've joined the front and the back shoulder together. So guys, this is the front part we cut out earlier. So we'll be adding collar to it. So we're adding it to the full length. So I've also joined the shoulder, the front and back shoulder together. Now I'll be joining the keyhole. So to achieve that, what I'll do is I'm going to, remember this is the good side, I'm going to turn it over like so. So I'm going to, these two parts, this is the waist part I notched earlier. So I'm going to make sure the back and the front are aligning, good side facing good side. So I'm going to pin it up. So we'll have something like this when we join it. Then I'll turn this other side over like so. Then I'll pick it from the waist point, from this waistline I notched, good side facing good side. Then I'm going to pin it up also. So if you are joining it, you join it by 1/2 inch. So we'll have something like this when we join it. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. On this part, I'll turn it over like this. Then I'll pick the front and the back together, making sure that this part I notched on the waist are aligning, good side facing the good side. Then I'll pin it up and sew it by 1/2 inch. So we'll have something like this. I hope you understand. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll turn it over, making sure the notched parts on the waist are aligning, good side facing the good side. Then I'll pin it up and sew it by 1/2 inch. So if you are sewing it, you just sew it all round like this. So I'll go ahead and sew it and show you when I'm done. So guys, I've joined it by 1/2 inch and I've gone ahead to iron it. So after doing that, the next thing is to fix the collar. So on the neckline, on the back neckline, I'm going to get the center because I'm going to attach the collar there. I'm cutting 2 of the collar, so it's going to have a join in there. Then on the full length, I'm going to measure it all round from the full length to the neckline down to the other side of the full length. So after measuring it all round, I have about 130 inches. That is what I used to cut out the collar. I cut it into 2. That is 130 divided by 2 will give me 65 inches. So for the width of the collar, I have about 5 inches. So on a fold, it will be 2.5 inches. So I'll be using half an inch for joining, and the collar will be 2 inches. So like I said, I cut out 2 of the collar. That is 130. I divided it into 2, and I have 65 for both collars. So I'm going to join it here by 1/4 inch. So I'm trying to pin it up. So I'll sew it by 1/4 inch. Then I'll fold it and give it a good press. I'll fold it here. So when I fold it, I'll make sure I get the center of the back neckline. I'll get the center. That is where I'll fix it. That is where the 2 joining will be. So I'll place it here like this. Then I'll pin it up, and I'll be joining it by half an inch. I'm joining the collar on the good side of the dress. So I'll have something like this when I join it. Remember I said we are joining it by half an inch. So after joining it on the full length, I'm going to hem it. I'll fold it by half an inch, and I'll refold it again, and I'll sew it all round to the end. I'll do the same thing on the side seam. I'll fold it just like I folded the full length, and I'll show you when I'm done stitching it. So guys, I've fixed the collar, and I've also weaved it. This is where I joined the 2 collars. So after weaving it, I now went ahead to iron it flat so that the collar will stay firm. So this is the hem line. I hemmed it by half an inch. I double folded it. So this is the other side. On the shoulder, this is where I joined it by half an inch before fixing the collar. So I joined it to the sleeve. So this is the side seam. I double folded it by half an inch all round. So this is the full dress. This is the collar. I've gone ahead to iron it, and this is the keyhole. So now the only thing remaining is the waist belt. So I used ×2 of the waist to cut out the belt. I used 5 inches for the width. On a fold, I have about 2.5 inches. So I'm going to shape it like this. So from this edge, I'm going to curve it to meet this other end here, like this. With my fabric chalk, I'm going to curve it like so to this point. So I'll cut this side out. So I'll be sewing it on the wrong side. But before then, I'll do the same thing on the other end of the strip. I'll fold this part, then I'll use this side to trace it. So I'll cut it out. So I'll sew it here by 1/4 inch. This is the wrong side. So I'll continue to sew it till I get to the end of the other side of the strip. So I'll go ahead and sew it. So I stitched it by 1/4 inch. So I did it to the end. So guys, I left 2 inches open. So I'm going to turn it out from here. So after pulling it out, I have this. So but I'm going to iron it flat. Then on this side that is open, I'm going to fold it like this. Then I'll top stitch on it by 1/4 inch. When I'm done, I'll iron it. So guys, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, like and share. Thanks for watching.